There was a small door that led to the attic space in my bedroom. I was about 11 to 13 years old. And it became habit that I would shut the door as I walked into my bedroom a couple times a week. I didn't really think anything of it. I just assumed my mom didn't close it all the way when she left it. After a while, I made the mistake of joking with her when she made a comment about me not picking up after myself. I said something like, "Every night I have to close the attic door behind you. How about you shut it all the way when you're done?" She then informed me that she hadn't been in the attic in months. I asked my brother. Nope. My father, no. So then I started to pay really close attention to it, making sure it was closed in the morning, checking it after school, checking after dinner. Then I would head up to go to bed and open. After a couple of months of wondering, studying, experimenting, I thought I'd see what happens if I just don't shut it. I opened the door before school and checked on it after school. It was still open. Checked on it after dinner, open, and before bed it was still open. Now I'm laying in bed, mind going crazy with the open door across the room, so I decided to check it out. I roll over and focus on the black space into the attic, just to see a face staring right back at me. I bolt downstairs, wake my parents, get ridiculed by my brother, switch bedrooms with my brother, and then we move into a new house about 6 months later, due to our expanding household. The new physics teacher and his wife had actually bought our house. I could have forgotten all about that event and chalked it up to me having an overactive mind, but then my senior year, I discovered how awesome my physics teacher was. Physics became my favorite class, and he was by far my favorite teacher. End of senior year, my friend and I took our VHS camcorder around town, doing mostly silly things, but then took it to my old house to see what they've done with the place. We got a very fun tour, and I got to tell stories all about the projects my dad had did when we were still part of that house. The wife led us upstairs to show us her sewing room. I asked jokingly, "Notice anything strange in this room?" And her face goes blank. On camera, she asks what I mean, and I tried to shrug it off, but end up saying something about that attic door. She confirmed that every time that she goes up there to sew, the attic door is open. She then tells us that the second day of being in that house, their dog, a German Shepherd, had gone into the room but would not go back downstairs. He started barking and could not be consoled, and then jumped through the window, landing on the tin roof over the porch and then running off. The dog did not come back until the next day, and has not stepped foot into the hallway that leads upstairs ever since. I had the initial thought that I could show my parents and brother the story I had on film, but I decided just to let it be. When I was a kid, my brother and I would get stuck babysitting the neighbor's kid. His name was Alex. Alex was really fond of the Lego set that I had in the corner of my room that was facing the window. He would play for hours, staying preoccupied, while my brother and I could play video games in the living room. So, one night, when I fell asleep on the couch while babysitting, my brother came in and said, "Alex is under your bed and shaking." I asked what's wrong with him. My brother told me to follow him into the room and try to talk him back out from under the bed. I go inside and find him on the verge of tears as he was trembling profusely under my bed. So I asked Alex, "What's wrong? Why are you under there?" Alex whimpered, "Him," while looking at the sliding closet door. As I walked towards the bed in order to help him up, he ran all the way back to his house and waited on his front steps until his parents got home. Now, my parents were out to dinner with his, and he explained the whole story in detail to both his parents and mine. His explanation sent shivers down my spine when my brother and I left the house to meet up with his parents and find out what happened. My mom told me that Alex was playing with my Legos and heard a slight murmur from my closet. Something that resembled a faint vocalization of "come here." He said when he looked behind him, he noticed the closet had a slight opening with light peering in from my lamp. He stared at the crack until he saw an eyelid open. He told us that there was a man in my closet. Alex then hid under my bed after he gave out a slight yelp, which is what attracted my brother's attention. My family rushes back to my house into my room, and in horror, we find my closet door rocked open and a few things missing. My window had been left open when it was previously closed, and a few things knocked over which had not been touched previously. We still don't know what force we were reckoning with after that evening, but thank God nothing more severe happened. In my childhood home, I would often hear touch typing coming from the computer downstairs, early in the mornings. I didn't really think much of it at first. My parents both worked from home, and it wouldn't be uncommon to wake up in the morning and hear Mom typing away at the computer. One day I got up and called out to my mom, assuming that she was down there working, as I could hear the typing. No answer. No one was down there at all. I was sure I heard typing. This had been happening regularly. I figured I was so used to hearing typing from downstairs that I was just hearing things that weren't there. So I didn't really mention it to anyone, figuring I was just going a bit crazy. This happened on and off over a period of 6 months. The sound of fast typing and fast, furious clicking of a mouse, as if someone was just frustrated. One morning I was eating my breakfast and I heard my mom at the top of the stairs call out to me, "You're not down there on the computer already?" I froze and ran out to her. I was amazed she had heard it too. She was convinced she could hear typing, yet no one was down there. I told her about all the times I'd been hearing it, and when my sister opened up about hearing it regularly too, when no one was down there, I wasn't crazy after all. I set out to try to catch whoever was causing it and try to discover a rational explanation for it. I'd sprint out of my bedroom to the top of the stairs, where I was able to look down at the room to see if anyone was at the computer. No such luck. Every time I got there, it stopped. I think it went on for a couple of years and we just learned to kind of live with it. I was down there once when the ceiling light globe in the center of the room began flashing very fast. Strobe-like. It then exploded and glass shattered all over the room. I was lucky I ran out of there when it started happening because I was just scared. If I hadn't ran, I would have been hit with bits of light bulb. Around that time, I was on the computer at home by myself when something happened that resulted in me never being alone in that room again. I felt and heard a really sharp intake of breath directly behind my right shoulder near my ear. I never ran so fast in my entire life and was hesitant going into the room ever again. Prior to that, the whole thing just had been some weird typing, and it was just a bit spooky but not scary. It still makes my heart race when I think about it to this day. Have never really encountered anything like this before or since all those events. I don't particularly believe in ghosts either, but I'm open to the possibilities of something in which scientists don't have a proper explanation for yet. I posted this a while ago, but when I was younger, my mom was dating this guy, we'll just call him JB, and after a few months, he invited my mom, me, my brother, all to go with him and his son, who was about my age, out to his lake house for the weekend. He was right on Lake Michigan, but it was up in a more secluded area, which was pretty awesome. Well, we got up there, and for one, I had already felt really creeped out. It was smaller, maybe 2, 3 if you'd count the attic, story house that had a living room / dining room / kitchen on the first floor, and on the second there were 2 bedrooms. His grandfather had helped him build this place back when he and his father lived there. We went up to the attic to get some beach toys because that's where JP kept all that stuff, just so he didn't have to haul it every time he went out there. When we went up to the attic, I noticed, in the back corner covered in some dust and cobwebs, were about 8 mannequins. Just some upper torsos and a couple full bodies. Not too out of the ordinary, considering a tailor had used to live there. Me and JB's son slept down in the living room on the couches since there were no more beds. And near midnight-ish, I heard the stairs squeak a few times. I figured it was just my mom coming down to check on me, so I told his son to be quiet and quickly turned the TV off and hid under the covers. After not hearing any noise for a few moments, I looked out from under the covers and saw 3 of the mannequins moving around in the kitchen. Like, their body parts weren't moving, but they were just kind of sliding around the kitchen. I swear I was dreaming, but it was so terribly realistic and frightening, I just hid back under the covers. And then I heard dragging on the floor, coming closer, then peeked out to see one of them just a few feet away from the couch. I hid back under the covers and shut my eyes tight, hoping it would just all go away. The next morning I got up and tried not to think about it, really hoping it was just a bad dream. But when we got back up to the attic to put the beach stuff back, the mannequins were all in different spots, and they weren't covered in cobwebs anymore. Believe me if you want, or don't, but it happened, and I've been scared shitless of mannequins ever since. Several years back, I was with some friends of mine taking care of a neighbor's cat. Friend 1, we'll call her N, was the person who was actually in charge of this, but asked friend 2, A, and I to come with her. We didn't really understand why, but she said that the place just kind of gave her some weird vibes, and that was good enough for us to come with her. We get into the house, and it's this really old place. Creaky and already kind of off, I guess. N shows us where the cat's food dish is, and she asks A to go get the food from the other room. N then asks me to go find the cat. I go off, looking around the house for this cat. I'm not exactly a cat person, so I really wasn't looking so much for the cat, but looking around the place. There's all the things you'd expect in an elderly lady's house. Knitting stuff, old pictures, paintings, etc. Nothing really too out of the ordinary. By this time, A had gotten the cat food, and the 2 of them were waiting for me to come back with the cat. The lady had given us specific instructions about feeding the cat, making sure it was there and stuff. I go back to the kitchen where the food dishes were, and I tell them that I've checked the entire first floor and upstairs, and I can't find this cat. A then asks if I checked the basement, to which I replied no. N leads us over to the basement, opens the door, and turns on the light. It already looked sketchy as hell, and I wasn't going to go down there. So I say that, and N agrees. A shrugs her shoulders and starts going down the stairs. This is when shit goes down. To this day, N and I swear that we see the same thing. People have tried to convince me that it was just something else, but I know what I saw. A was walking down the stairs, and this lady appears in the doorway N and I are standing in. She's dressed in a long white dress and is extremely pale. She seems to have this glow about her. She takes a step down towards A and looks back up at N and I. She brings a finger to her lips like she's telling us to be quiet. and then turns around and pushes A down the stairs. Hard. A goes flying down the stairs, screaming. N and I are just frozen in place, chills going through our entire bodies. A lands at the bottom of the steps, turns around and sees the lady. The lady smiles, walks past N and I, and disappears. A gets up slowly, clearly in pain. She gets up and turns around, asking if she has any bruises on her back. There were 2 dark handprints on her back. Ann and I nodded our heads and said we'd show her after we got the hell out of there. We decided, fuck the cat, we're not going to go back to that goddamn house ever again. To this day, I have no explanation for that. And Ann and I swear we saw the same things. Ghouls, I hope you enjoyed these childhood creepy stories as much as I did. Like, I went through this entire thread, and holy shit, like, there's so many good ones. And I probably could have made like 40 stories instead of 5, but y'all know I have a full-time job now. I'm an adult, like 100% now, so I don't have time, although I wish I did. But please leave your childhood creepy, like, stories in the comments, because I could read them forever. And whether you think it's paranormal or not, like, just put it down there, because when you think about it, looking at things through, like, a child's eyes, like, never seeing things before, it's creepy and interesting. So let me know in the comments. But as always, my last video will be on the top left. The next video will be on the bottom left. All my social medias are on the screen as well as in the description box below. And remember, there's always someone or something watching you.